Okay, thank you. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for your confirmation. So I can see a lot of us. Okay. So let's start this session. Let's begin this session. Let me share my screen. Okay. So I think you can see my screen now. Cool. Okay. So let's start this session. Before starting with today's topic or today's continuation to the yesterday's one. So just let's revise what we discussed yesterday for a couple of minutes. Okay, so yesterday we continued the discussion about the setter injection, how we are doing the setter injection. So yesterday, as part of setter injection, we taken different primitive data type values as well as we are injected collection objects like list of values as well as set of values. List of values or set of values, that is what we completed yesterday. So generally how we are going to do the setter injection by using property tag. So Spring provided, okay, so to enable the setter injection, Spring provided an option called as property tag as part of the main tags. Right, so this is how we are going to do the setter injection of the data inside an object. Okay, so whatever the object you have, so if you want to inject some data with respect to setter injection, so you are going for the property configuration. So Spring provided a predefined tag called as property tag. The property tag represents setter injection inside the Spring framework. So why it is called as a setter injection? Because as per Spring framework, whenever you are using this kind of configuration, so immediately Spring will observe, okay, so okay, these guys are configured properties, these people are using property tag, so I need to do the setter injection. Okay, so in such a way Spring will feel and Spring will create object for your class and it will initialize by default. Okay, it is going to initialize the default values for our classes, bean class. Give me a second. Yeah, so by default what it is going to do, it is going to create object and as well as it is going to assign default values for your instance variables or properties. So that is what happened. So after that, immediately what it is going to do, it is going to call the setter method. So immediately it is going to call the setter method. So that is what we discussed yesterday. So whenever I was creating object of our bean class, with the default values, it will create the empty object. It will create the object. So once your object is created, after object is created, then Spring will read one by one property from your bean configuration, and based on the property you configured, so it will call that irrelevant setter method. Now what Spring is doing, Spring calling setter methods which are relevant to the okay. So yeah, what Spring is doing, Spring calling relevant setter methods based on your property. Based on your property, Spring is calling setter method and injecting the values, whatever you configured as part of the value attribute. So as whatever the value given as part of the value attribute, that is what going to be injected into the object level. So this is what we completed yesterday as the discussion, and after that, apart from that, we taken one more class which is covering different primitive data type values like long, double, boolean as well as set of values or list of values. So especially long and double, it is very straightforward. When it comes to boolean, yesterday whatever the issue we found, we got it right. It's not because of something Spring side, it is only because of Eclipse, whatever the help you taken, right? So generally what I did, I created properties, variables, and I taken help like source, generate, setter, getter methods. So generally the getter methods syntax will be like this. Okay, the template of the setter getter methods generally likes this. Okay, so set plus variable name. Set plus variable name. That too, the first character of the variable name will become capital letter. So that means, so for example, if you have mobile number is a variable name. So generally the setter method will form like this. Set, okay, set is going to add it, and this will be attached to the set keyword, and you are making the first character as a capital letter as part of the variable. So this is what is going to be formed by setter method. Even getter also same. So in place of set you will get, so whenever getter method you are writing, so generally this is the approach we will follow, right? So this is the basic approach for Pojo classes, setter getter method setup. But what happened with respect to yesterday, whenever we created setter getter methods, especially for the Boolean method, the Eclipse is doing some different syntax, something like is order delivered, is, okay, set order delivered, like that. It is missing is word from your variable. So generally this variable contains is. So it is, yesterday it created a setter method like this, set order delivered, that's all. So it is missing is. So what I did, based on our variable name, I modified my setter method. For especially Boolean data type, this problem you will get. More for other data types you will not get it. Okay, so for Boolean data types probably you will get this kind of issue. So only thing is, in the setter method, make sure it is correct or not. That's all you need to do. The remaining part is same thing. The way you are configuring inside the beans.xml file and everything is again same. So just open beans.xml file. Yesterday this is what the class we taken. So this is a true false values. So this is a true false values you are going to pass because the data type is Boolean here. Okay, so after that what we did, yeah guys, so just observe the chat. These guys are the admin team is posting the last classes. Okay, so until yesterday's class they are posting the links. Okay, copy from there. Okay, don't even I can save it at the end of time. I can share it with you. Do one thing, share it in separate. Okay, so come back to the class now. Okay, so after that we integrated, not integrated, we injected list of values. For example, whenever your bean class contains a list data type property, or set data type property. So for example, assume like it is a set property. Now we have set here to inject this set of values, set data type values. So Spring provided a specific XML tag called as set. Set is the tag of the property tag. So set is the child tag for the property tag. So generally, come back to our configuration. So whenever generally what we will do, it is a straightforward string or primitive data types, name equal to value. But here this is group of values. You cannot pass as part of the values. So that's why what they did, Spring framework provided in these scenarios a separate child tags for your property. So for example, if it is a list, it will be represented as a list. If it is a set. Okay, based on the set behavior, the data will be stored inside the data will be injected. So for example, if you are trying to store Coke 2 times, then it will be stored only 1 time because it is a set. But if you are converted as a list, again list will allow the duplicate values. So you can see Coke value 2 times. So the default behavior comes as part of the list and set. But the only thing is we need to concentrate on how we are injected the list of or set of values. That is what we need to understand. Now guess, I'm going to introduce one more data type. Yeah. So if it is a set, it will take only one Coke value. Let me execute the program before moving to the other data type. So let's run our program. So save all your changes, run Java application. Okay, see, you can see Coke only 1 time because you configured values as a set of values because your class is your class created for this set of values. If you made it as a list, then if you are added Coke 2 times, you will see Coke 2 times. If you added 5 times, you can see 5 times. Okay, so the same default behavior will not be disturbed. Okay, so whatever the list and set you learned as part of the core Java, right? So that behavior will not be disturbed. Internally, they are creating list of objects and list object, array list object, and they are storing all the values. So this is what they are doing internally. The Spring framework is doing all these things. Okay, so the default behavior of list and set will not be disturbed. So now let's come back. For example, the same class. Okay, so I want to create, maybe assume like the same class is expecting a map values. Maybe this class needs a property called as map. Maybe in future, if you are trying to configure map objects, then how we are going to inject, how Spring is allowing us to inject the values for map collection objects. So for example, I want to store string comma string. String comma string I want to store, and followed by, so you can give some value, something. What can I do? What can I give? So order price, order individual point of view, order prices or item prices. So one item, and what is that price item, like that. Okay, so let's take items prices. So what is the map object you are going to? So this order class is created one more property, one more instance variable called as items prices, and the data type is map type. So we know list and set. Now we are just thinking about the, whenever you have a requirement, whenever you have a demand for the key value pairs, then definitely we'll go for the map collection object. But when you are having map collection object as a dependency in your class level, how we are going to inject the default values of the map content, map object. So how we are going to inject? So guess, nothing much, same thing, same approach. Whatever the property you will have for that, for hash map purpose or map object purpose, Spring given a separate child tag as part of the property tag. Okay, so for example, so these are the 4 properties we set. Let me get it down. So we have first property, second property, third property, and fourth property. Now, as part of our class, we added a 5th property called as items prices. So let's copy paste into your beans.xml as a property. First of all, it is a property. So later point of time, what data type it is? First thing is, it is a property. So what is your property name? Item prices. Now when it comes to item prices, what is the data type? What is the data type you defined in your class? Map type. Map type. So that means you need to inject values in a format like key value pairs. You have to inject in a format like key value pairs. So how we are going to inject? So for that also, Spring provided predefined tags only. You don't need to do anything. So just you need to identify what are the tags we have. So see here, Spring provided one more tag called as child tag for the property tag called as map. So very simple, straightforward. For example, if it is a list, list. If it is a set, set. If it is a map, map. So that's all. Whenever it is a list and set, you will have direct values, one value at a time, right? But whenever it is a map by default map syntax, map signature is like key equal key value pairs. So generally map is all about, let's do one thing, let's take a new image, save it. Okay. So generally map will be saved as a key value pairs. You will have unique keys and you will have values for that specific keys and all. You know that map functionalities. So as part of map, so however you have value here, right? So these guys are given a child tag called as entry tag. Entry tag they given. So here you can configure key and values. So whatever the key you want, whatever the value you want, you are going to configure as part of key and value. So one entry represents one entry represents one key value paid. So value is the attribute. See, very straightforward it is. Come back and make your notes. So make everything at one place. See, for map, as part of map, so you are going to, generally if it is a list, child tag is value. If it is a set, child tag is value. But because you will have only one value at a time for the list and set, but map is all about key value combination. So that is what they given a separate child tag called as entry, and for the entry they given two specific attributes called as key and value. They given two specific attributes called as key and value. So for example, I ordered Coke. Okay, so let's do one thing. So this is what my idea here. Okay, this order contains Coke. The value is, the key is Coke, and the price, item price, maybe assume like it is 60 rupees or whatever it is. Now, second key, you can take count or whatever it is whenever you are practicing. For example, you ordered one more thing is chocolate and the specific price is 100 rupees, and you ordered one more called as water bottle, and okay, I will make it as another key value page. So entry, see here, you can represent in any way. Okay, so maybe you can directly configure as a key value as attributes, or you can take again as part of entry, you can take child tag as a key as well as child tag as a value. Okay, so the key will be replaced with a value called as water bottle, and value will be replaced with some value 200. I mean something assume like 20 rupees or whatever. Okay, so what you did, so any kind of approach is fine generally. Okay, whatever it is. Okay, any kind of approach is fine here. Okay, so let's test our application now. So I think you need to create setter getter method for the new property in the order details level. In the order details level, you need to create a setter getter method for the order prices, because we are added new property, right? So you need to create setter getter method for the item prices. We need to take generate for the item prices. So you are going to get map object, you are going to set map of the values and everything. Now come back here. So your Pojo class is ready, and as well as your configuration is also ready. Your configuration also ready inside the XML file. Your configuration also ready inside the XML file. So generally we can take it as for the references and all. So you can take the content of element type key must be match with bin ref idf value. Yes, value we have. Null, it's okay. Let's come back. So go and execute your program. Now try to get from the object. So where is your main application? Here we have main application. So I'm going to get item prices, order dot get item prices. So the fifth property you injected has a map of values. So we lent like, okay, what we lent as part of this. So how we are configuring values whenever you have map type. Whenever you have map type, how we are configuring the values. So this is how you are going to configure the values for a map data type. So entry key equal to value. Key will contain key. Value is all about value. So it's all about hash map functionality. So internally they will create hash map object. Spring Framework will create internally hash map object, and they will store all these key value pairs inside the hash map. Okay, if you are giving Coke 2 times, the latest value will be shown. Like similar behavior to the hash map object, right? Keys will be always unique. If you are added second time, the latest value will be displayed. So we will do that experiment first let's do our testing, then we will do that experiment. So run as Java application. So I think key is failing. There you have to give another class reference. Key must match bean reference null value. Okay, good. So there you have to give another references, another class references. I will come back to that part. Okay, we will configure in a way, but we need to pass, instead of value, we need to pass other class configuration, other class references that we will see later. So take the same approach, value and everything. Let's do one thing. The third entry, first entry, second entry, third entry. So probably water bottle. And you purchased for 20 rupees. So maybe the price is 20 rupees. So now execute your program one more time. See, if you are making any configuration mistakes inside the XML, you will get all XML exceptions. Okay, SAX parser exceptions. So they will tell you what is the exception and all, at what line you are getting the problem. So Spring will provide you very clear, okay, clear errors it will provide you. So you observe, it is telling me very clearly, like at line number something 39 and all, I have a problem. So whenever you just see here, let me display the line numbers. Show line numbers, yes. Where the line numbers went? I don't know why it's not displaying line numbers. Here it is displaying. In XML, I don't know why Eclipse is not displaying, but anyway, it will generally display the line numbers with line numbers including everything and all. So it will give you proper exception meanings also, exception messages also. The content of element type key must. So that means there is a problem with the key. That is what they are telling. And what are the expected values? Something you have to pass, another bean reference IDs and all. So we will see that part later. Okay, so if you want to pass any map list and everything, that is what you have to pass. We will see that part later. Okay, so straightforwardly we are configured string and string as part of the map object. So now test our application. Run as Java application. So see here, you can see Coke 60. So the hash map object representation, that means internally they are maintaining all the values as a hash map. If you want, you can receive. See, what is the method return type? Map. So what is this method return type? Map. That means you can store inside the map and with respect to string. So string. So something item prices. You can read inside a map object. Now you have map object with you. So you can do whatever the things you want to do. You can do anything, right? For example, you want to calculate total price of all these values, 60, 100 plus 20. So you want to calculate and you want to print. Yes, you will iterate map object. You will get all the keys one by one. You will get all the keys one by one. And then you will add all the price. I mean, you will make the total amount of the price. So you have map object with you. You can calculate the total amount. Then you will make it as your bill amount is so and so rupees. So like that you can write down your own logic. So just that is what. So that is why, I mean, in such a way, we are just configuring the map data type inside the beans.xml file. Inside the beans.xml file to configure map data type. What is the tag provided by the Spring Framework? Map is the tag, and inside that you are going to configure child tags with entry, and entry will allow key and value pairs. So you need to pass key and value pairs. For example, so as part of the hash map or map, whenever you are storing a key 2 times, generally you can see key only 1 time, right? And whatever the latest value you given, so that will be displayed. For example, I given latest value as a double line. So see in which order it is taking and all. So come back here. print order of get items instead of iterating everything. Okay, so print it now. So see how many keys it is maintaining. So see here, you can see only Coke one time. It is missing Coke equal to 60 value because the first you stored Coke equal to 60 and then Coke value as a 99. So the latest value will be taken by the hash map generally, right? So the same behavior is displaying here as well. Okay, so with this we are done with the how we are going to inject values of collections as well as primitive data types as well as string data type. Okay, so with this what we have done, so generally in a Pojo class level or in a class level, maybe whenever you are defining instance variables, you may have primitive data types. So that might be one chance. Second thing is, apart from primitive, you may see string. Apart from string, collection objects. That too, especially list, set, and hash map. So we covered those three as well. So apart from that, you may have user-defined classes or something predefined classes. So that means if you return employee class, you want to inject employee or address inside the employee, whatever it is. Maybe you return address class. And you want to, inside employee class, you define like this. One of the property data type as a address data type. Address data type something ADD, you return a class like this. So this means this time what is the data type? User defined class data type. The data type is user defined class data type. That means in simply it is another bean class. It is another bean class or another Java class, whatever it is. So another bean class, generally we should call it as another bean class. So the instance variables address is the data type is another bean class data type. Or predefined classes are nothing but something, what are the classes you are receiving from the Java language or Spring framework level. For example, you will have something in database level connection, right? DB connection, driver manager. So driver manager, so is a predefined class from the SQL package. So in such case, so generally I'm telling you, okay. So in such case, for example, you return like this manager. So it's a predefined class, it is a user defined class, but how you are going to inject object of these classes inside the employee class, that is what the pending we have. So only these four types probably we will get. Most of the times we will get either primitives or string data type or collection objects, and as well as predefined or user defined classes objects. So we are done with the primitive, we are done with the string, we are done with the collection objects. So list, set, map we completed. Now let's discuss about the classes objects, bean objects, how you are injecting one class object into another object. So these three are very straightforward. The first three are very straightforward, but when it comes to second, we need to spend some little bit time and we need to understand carefully, because actually in real-time projects level, most of the times we are going to inject one object into another object. We are going to define one class into another class. So this is what happening in real-time projects. Okay, so that means this we should understand very carefully this. Okay, because these three are very straightforward. Primitive is just like you are defining a property tag. You are defining just like a property tag, key, the property name, that means instance variable name, and what is the value you are trying to inject. So if it is a list, simply you are writing a list tag. Inside that you are writing a value tag. Inside that you are writing value. If it is a set, yes, value. If it is a map, entry, key, comma, value concepts you return. But when it comes to other class data types, what we have to do, how we are going to inject and all, we need to be understand now. Okay, so for example, let's take a requirement, and based on the requirement we will write down our Spring injection, dependency injection with respect to setter injection. For example, I'm going to collect details of all students. Collecting collecting details of students. Collecting details of students. So that means, so as part of student details, I want to collect student ID. Okay, I want to collect student ID and I want to collect student name. Okay, what are the data types and all we will define later. So first of all, we are just taking as a requirement point of view. So, and apart from this, student ID and his contact number. So that means his mobile number, student mobile number, and then I want to collect address of the communication. For the communication purpose, I want to collect student address, but I want to get address as a different class, and inside the address I want to collect from what I mean his city, okay, his state, maybe assume like country or city, state, country and pin code as well. Okay, so let's take, we are going to collect as part of the address class, we are going to collect these 4 details, and for that, whatever the address you are creating, that address you are going to define as part of the student class. So that means I am going to collect the details of the students, student ID, student name and mobile number, and as well as I want his address details, but address should be as a separate object and address should be written as a separate class. So that means here student, so that means you are going to write down student class. Student depends on address object. Students depends on the address object. So understand, this is what little bit we need to understand. So the last 3 things are very straightforward. You can see, you can understand by seeing notes as well. But this thing, you just need to little bit more focus. Okay, so you are going to write down a address class, and then you are going to write down the employee class. So address class is going to be used as part of the employee class. So it is a employee class. It is a address class. Okay. So address is having only maybe primitive data type properties. Primitives as well as maybe it may have string. That's all. But when it comes to here employee level, you have primitive property. We will write down the class. First we are discussing the design, architecture, requirement and everything. Okay, so that's what. So just go through the implementation with respect to how things will happen in the industry level. Okay, so you are going to have properties might be primitive as well as string data type, and you are going to have user defined class data type. So that means, what is that user defined class? Address is the class. So what is the user defined class? Address is the class. So you know that if it is a primitive, maybe student ID as an integer, you know how to configure integer value, you know how to configure string value, but we don't know, we don't know how to configure address object inside the employee object. So we don't know how to configure address object inside the employee object. That means Spring, you need to do some configuration so that Spring framework going to be injected. Okay, this is what generally dependency injection. So whatever that is, okay, so this Spring going to be injected address into employee level. So that means to achieve this statement, first which object we have to create? First whatever the dependency you have. So you have dependency on the address. So that means first step you have to create the address object. Okay, whatever the dependency you have, that should be created first, and then you are going to create the employee class. In the second step, you are going to create the employee class, so that internally based on our Spring configuration. So we are already did lot of configurations for map objects, for set object, for different primitive data types or string data types. We already given configuration. In similar way, we are going to do some configuration with respect to user defined classes or a class objects. In simple way, for the another class object. So the dependency should be created first. That means in the step number 1, we are going to configure first address. First, we are going to configure address. And then once address is ready, then you can start configuring the employee. In the second step, you are going to configure employee, because employee using address, address is individual. Employee is not individual. Employee depends on the address. So that means it is completely depends on the address class. The word I am taking depends here. Okay, employee depends on the address object. So you have to be ready with address object first, and then you have to configure employee. So let's write down our classes now. Okay, based on our requirement. First, what you have to do? So we are going to write down address class first. Then we are going to write down the employee class where we are using address and all. So based on the address class, we are going to take these 4 properties: city, state, and country, and pin code. So these are, so let's assume, so can I take it as a city as a state? Yes, sorry, string, not state, string. And I can take state as a, again, string, and country also string. If you want, you can take pin code as a integer, because 6 digits, maybe it is within the range of integer. So you can take, this is what. So that means address class contains only either primitive or string data type. So you know that how to configure address class inside the beans.xml. So let's write down our class first. Okay, I'm going to create a separate package. Okay, in the same project, but I'm creating a separate project, something like students, details, or whatever it is. Okay, so and I'm going to write down the class name as a address class. So is it clear? First of all, the requirement is very straightforward, and we need first address and then we need employee, because address should be created first and then employee should be created, because employee using address is individual, but employee is not individual. So that's why we have to make individual first and then the dependent part. So our student, whatever it is, employee or student, sorry. Okay, so I think I taken here the name as a employee. Okay, you can take anything, like let's replace with the student. Okay, so as part of address class, how many properties you are going to use? 4 properties. Any doubts, or create another project? So that's why I created a separate package. Even I will create separate beans.xml also. Okay, in the same project itself, because creating same project will waste our time. Okay, so you know that how to do that. Take separate project. Okay, tomorrow maybe for constructor injection I will take separate project, but today I taken a separate package. I don't want to mix with the existing package, and I will create a separate beans as well. Okay, so don't worry. So now as part of address, you know that how to configure all these things. Copy paste private. Okay, you may write down private or not. It's no problem. Private. Okay, let's copy paste and followed by semicolons. Followed by semicolon. Okay, so you are going to write down, you are writing address class. Okay, we are writing address class and we are going to write down setter getter methods, because we are completely discussing about the setter injection. After setter injection, we will move to the constructor injection. Okay, source, generate setter getter methods. To achieve the setter injection, you need always setter method for every property, whatever the property you want to configure. So that's why they given name itself as a setter injection. Setter injection is nothing but internally after object creation, it is calling setter methods with the values on top of the object. Okay, you need to give this explanation. Whenever in interviews asked, you need to give this kind of explanation to them. Okay, this is what the explanation you need to give them. First, IOC container will create object and with the default values, and then Spring we'll call setter methods based on our properties, whatever the properties we configured. Spring Framework will call those relevant setter methods, and these values will be passed as part of the setter methods. So that is why it is calling as a setter injection. So that is how you need to give explanation in interviews level. Okay, so now let's come back to the code. So I'm going to configure a little bit quickly because we know that. Now let's do one thing. I'm creating one more XML file. Okay, so one more XML file I'm creating, separate XML file. In the same project, I'm going to take something students dot XML. You can give any names generally, and you know that generally we need to be copy paste this XML schema because we cannot remember, and followed by the end tag of the beans tag /beans. Okay, so it's a empty bean configuration XML file. Now let's come back and configure the address. You know how to configure address class inside the student. First, you are going to write down the bean tag, and inside the bean ID represents bean ID. That means it's similar to object reference name or variable name. So you can give something student. Okay, you can give something student and followed by the class. Class is all about the fully qualified class name. That means you should not give, sorry, this is address, right? Not class, address. So let's take address. Okay, and for the address class, you have to give the fully qualified name. So that means along with the package name, you have to give the class name. Package name dot class name. Package name dot class name. So what is your class? Address is the class. Go to the beans.xml. students.xml. So you created empty bean object. At the same time, you want to configure some default address details for the student. Okay, assume like it is a college address also. For example, you are collecting college address of the students. For all the colleges, same address. So we will come back that part later anyway. Okay, so now come back here. So you are going to configure based on the property because your class contains all what? Only string and integer. So you can take directly property. Property name, what are the keys you are having? So let me copy paste from here. City. Keys in the sense variable name, sorry. So the variable name is city and followed by value equal to, so maybe he is from Hyderabad, assume like, and I'm going to configure in similar way 4 properties, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to copy paste state, okay, and country, okay, and pin code. Okay, so you are in a stage of learning. After core and advanced Java, you are learning Spring. Okay, so little bit you need to understand how you are doing the things and all. Okay, so state is all about, assume like Telangana state, and country is all about India, and pin code is all about, assume like he is staying something like 5,72,000. Okay, this is the pin code. So now your address object is ready or not? Yes, property tag, good, Anand. That is not possible to configuration both packages in one XML file. Yes, you can configure. It's not like that. To avoid the confusion between previous things, okay, I created separate XML, but in the same XML, if you want to configure a class from different packages, you can do that. Okay, if you want, I can create employee class from the different package, okay, or student class in the different package. You can configure, no problem. Okay, so as per our requirement, come back. We are ready with the address configuration. So let's come back here. Now, the second step is you are going to write down the student class. The second step is you are going to write down the student class. Go and write down the student class. For example, new class. Okay, and I'm going to write down student class. And this student class requires How many properties as per requirement? Student ID, student name, mobile number, as well as address. So these are the 4 details you want inside the student class. So private, integer, student ID. Okay, I want to take it as something like 1, 2, 3 like that, and private name as a string. You know that name will be a string. Okay, and so even mobile number I can take it as a long because out of the integer range. So we are going to take it as a long. Mobile number, student name, and followed by the address type. Okay, so you return a class called as address class, private address, and followed by some reference variable name. Okay, so this time the data type is not integer, not primitive, not string, not collection object. This time the data type is a user defined class. That means another class name is the data type. Another class name is the data type. That means you need another class object as part of the student class. So let's write down the setter getter methods for 4 properties: source, generate, getter, setter methods, select all, address, mobile number, and everything. Okay, so it's deleted something. Okay, do one thing, Control X. Yeah, let me paste here in order. Okay, so 4 properties. For 4 properties, I have setter, getter, method. See here, the return type of get method is address. Here, you are setting value as a address object. That means whenever for the property address calling by the Spring framework with respect to setter injection, what value it is passing? Address object. That means Spring should create first address object. That's why inside the beans.xml we created address object first, and then we are going to configure the employee bean class. Now understand how we are going to write down the employee class. Okay, so let's take a new bean configuration. Okay, let's write down very freshly bean. Okay, it says new bean configuration for the employee. I am going to write down maybe student. Sorry, student. Something like assume student 1, student 1 followed by class. What is our class? Equal to fully qualified class name. That means student. Student, and from the same package called as com.studentdetails.student. So let's take the package name, come back your XML file, dot student. The class name is you written as a student. So up to this you are clear. Good. Now come back to the student class. Even you know how to configure, how to pass value for this property. Even you know for this. Even we know for first 3 properties. So let's configure first 3 properties because those are integers and string data type. You know that how to do that. So you are going to use the property tag name followed by student ID. Come back to the XML. Okay, and do one thing. Okay, let's do one thing. So these are the 4 properties you want to configure. So you are going to configure student ID and followed by value. So proverb is his student ID is 100. Now similar way you are going to configure first student name as well as mobile number. So student name as well as mobile numbers. Control C, mobile number. So these 2 properties you are going to configure. Student name you given as a Dilip Singh or whatever it is. Okay, and mobile number something you given like this. Assume like you given a mobile number. Okay, cool. Now when it comes to the 4th property is the matter for us now. Okay, this is all we know. So how to configure integer, string and all with respect to setter injection, with respect to property tag, we know how to configure. But when it comes to the student class, you are having 4th property data type as another class, The data type of the 4th property is representing another class, not primitive, not string, not collection object. So it is representing other class object. That is which class object? Which class? Address class. So that means you want to inject. So that means, for example, for the Dilip Singh, okay, for Dilip Singh, and the student ID 100, his address is, assume like my address is, this is what my address. I am staying in Hyderabad in the Telangana state in the India, and my PIN number is 5,72,000. So that means I want to inject whatever Spring. Generally what will happen whenever this bean configuration is loaded by the Spring, whenever you are executing your program, what will happen? So let's understand this. Okay, let's take here. So assume like Control A, something, let's 12, bold it. Okay, so what will happen whenever Spring come to this bean configuration? Immediately what it will do, inside the Spring memory level, inside the JVM memory level, it will create an object called as address object. It is going to create object called as address, and the name given as a ADDRES, because you given ID as a same thing here. So the name given to like this, and finally after setter injection and all, the values will be like this. Okay, so city equal to something Hyderabad, state equal to TS, country equal to India, and followed by pin code equal to some value 5,72,000. So this is what ready inside the Spring JVM memory level or Spring application memory level in the IOC container, whatever it is. At the end it is finally JVM, but generally they given name as a IOC container or whatever it is, IOC container. Okay, the terminology point of view, they calling it as a IOC container. So in the IOC container, your address object is ready. Good. Now Spring immediately what it will do? It will go to the next bean configuration, but this time this bean want a bean object of the other class. That too, the data type is address data type. Student want which data type? This class object you want from this package, So by the time you configured employee class or student class, you are already having address object. For example, you want to inject this address object for the Dilip, because Dilip belongs to the same address. Dilip belongs to the same address. So what you have to do here, understand very carefully. Let's write down the property, fourth tag, property. So what is our name with respect to student class? Address. Okay, so clearly observe here, this is what the name I am taking, variable name, not data type. What is my variable name? Address. So yes, property name is always variable name. So this is always representing variable name. When it comes to value, what you have to give? It is not something like a simple real-time value 1, 2, 3 or Dilip and all. It's a object. So this is all overall object. Some overall object you want to pass. So that is what, to inject another class object into one class. Okay, to inject another class objects, Spring provided an attribute called as ref attribute. What is that attribute? Ref is the attribute. Okay, so what is that attribute? Ref is the attribute. So I will tell you what is the meaning of ref. Okay, so Spring provided a concept called as ref attribute. So as part of the property, understand here. So here it is an integer value, name value. If it is a string, value. If it is a long, value. Okay. So when it comes to our previous example, if it is a collection of list object, you will not see any value here directly. You will see a child tag called as list. If it is a set. But here, this time, as per our requirement, you need address object. So that is why Spring is saying like, use a attribute called as ref attribute. The ref is nothing but reference. Ref, the full word is object reference. So let's close this. Let's open our XML. Okay. So the ref is nothing but, what is the meaning of ref? Ref is, the full word is reference. Reference, object reference. Okay, the reference, the word of REF is a shortcut. The full word is reference. So that means now you are informing to the Spring framework, hey Spring, I want address object. Could you please go and refer this specific bean object. To inject address object inside the student class, to inject address object inside the student class, so here you need to provide address reference. So in this case, what you have to provide? Address object reference. You need to provide address object reference, you have to provide here. Okay, so let's do one thing. It's a XML comment. I'm writing XML comments. Okay, let's bring it in the new line. Okay, so so the reference is all about, ref is all about, the full word is reference, and you need to pass address object reference, nothing but address bean ID, address class bean ID. So by the time we are creating employee class, student class, okay, you are already created a bean for the address class. So what is the bean ID? Address. So this address should be given here. So that means you are telling to the Spring Framework, please refer. So let me write down one more comment here itself. Okay, so you are telling to the Spring Framework, you are giving an instruction to the Spring Framework, please refer. The meaning of it is, please inject address object which contains bean ID as something like address. Okay, for example, assume like you given only shortcut like ADDR, okay, to avoid the confusion. I assume like you given only ADDR. So what is the bean ID of address class? ADDR. So that bean ID you have to pass here. So that means you are informing to the Spring Framework, hey Spring, could you please inject address object which contains bean ID as ADDR, So that simply what Spring will do? Spring will verify in the memory, is there any object contains object name as or the reference name as a ADDR, and that object will be injected to the employee level. So based on this, okay, we made it as a small change ADDR, right? So assume like, okay, so let's do one thing. Let's make a proper example, proper diagram also with respect to our bean configuration. Delete. So what you given? Bean ID, ADDR. Okay, so you given bean ID as a ADD. So and here first thing is, whenever this bean configuration is completed by the Spring Framework, it will create object for the address class with the bean ID as address. Now you return one more bean configuration called as XML. One more bean configuration for the student class. Let me copy paste here. Okay, let me minimize the code. Let me minimize, decrease the size. 11, no, 12, I will make it. Okay, let's remove comments here to make diagram. Okay, understand the diagram, you can easily understand it. Okay, I think you are already understood, but anyway, we'll make a proper diagram. We can use it for the nodes as well. Okay, so this is what the bean configuration. Second bean configuration you did inside the XML file. So whenever Spring comes to the second bean configuration, what it will do? First, it will create a default object called as student. It will create an object called as student with the default values for all 4 properties. And what is the bean ID you given? Student 1. So what is the bean ID you given? Student 1. That name will be given to your object. Cool. So, and default, what it will do? For 4 properties for the student class, what are the 4 properties you have? Student ID, default value is, what is the student you will take in? Integer. So default value equal to 0. Student name equal to null. Null it is going to control A. Okay, so student name equal to null and followed by contact mobile number, right? Yes, mobile number equal to long, maybe 0. And when it comes to fourth property, yes, you given, what is the fourth property given? ADD RES. Fourth property equal to null, because other class objects will, objects will have by default null value. Whenever you don't have any value, so by default it is a null. So this is how initially the object is created. When this will be created? Whenever this first line is executed. So understand here, whenever this line is executed, immediately an object will be created with the bean ID called as student1 and with all default values for the 4 properties. Now what Spring will do? Spring will observe, okay, these guys configured property values also. It will go one by one and it will call the, now Spring will call setter methods on the student class. First it will call set student ID of 100. So the value will be replaced with 100. Okay, 0 is replaced with 100. Good. Now student name is going to replace with something like, what is the value I given? Dilip Singh. Dilip space Singh I given. Now mobile number, yes, mobile number will be replaced with whatever the value you given, something like 8283, whatever it is. Just understand like same value. But when it comes to fourth property, what you configured here, understand the fourth property now. So this is what the fourth property. So when property name is address, fine. So it is trying to call the setter method for the address property. But you are given a reference of the address object. So that means you are telling to the Spring framework, hey Spring, could you please refer the bean ID wherever you have something like ADDR. Okay, so what simply now you are giving, what is this value? Bean ID of other class, not class name. Okay, be careful. That's why I take it as a shortcut name. Okay, so it's a bean ID, not class name. You given bean ID name. So now you are telling to the Spring framework, hey Spring, could you please go and find out an object which contains bean ID as ADDR. So now Spring will understand, like Spring will say like, yes, I found the bean with ID ADDR, and by the time object is also available in my memory like that, and immediately what it will do? It will inject that object. So this object, whatever the ADDR object you have, that will be pointed to your reference variable. That will be pointed to this address property. That will be, so this address object, now this object is injected. Here what happened? Injected. So this is what? Injected. Okay, this is what? Injected. The address is injected into employee. So in place of null, what you have now? The address object, which is created with this bean ID, ADDR. So that means here in the address property level, this overall object you have. Okay, in the address object level, this overall object you have. Okay, maybe I'm just making a small diagram. Okay, inside employee now, this address object is injected. So is it clear what is happening whenever with respect to the reference attribute, ref attribute? So how you are injecting? So Pawan, just create a new project. I don't know about this error. Sometimes it might be your project creation problem. So create a new workspace, create something like step by step what I given in the material. Okay, understood. Okay, good. Attributes, same. Ref is the address. Yeah, you can give ref is nothing but reference of the object. That's what. So cool. So this is what happening. Now let's test whether really injected that address into student or not. Okay, so let's write down a main class here. Okay, we will write down a separate main class. So we don't want to take the existing one and all. So let me write down a main class. Student application something, application. Student application, I'm going to write down main method and all. So here, understand again. So you're going to create the bean factory object. Bean factory object. So something like bean factory variable name object name equal to new. We are still keep on discussing about the file system XML application context only. String location, you have to give the file location, semicolon. So what you have to give here inside this string of path, the path of your XML. So this time what XML I created? Students.xml. So you need to give students.xml file path. So go to the properties. You can see where you have the file property, copy and come back to your main class. Come back to your main class, give the path. So see here Eclipse is automatically giving double slashes. Okay, you have to give double slashes. You know that. I think you're already gone through the core Java and all. Okay, so file API, file input output streams and all. Okay. So cool. I give an XML file path. So whenever this line is executed, line number 10, all this process will be executed internally. So whatever we discussed here, that everything will be. So let's save this thing. Setter injection of other objects. Okay, setter injection of other objects, save it. Okay, so whenever this line is executed, Spring will go to the XML file, read bean configuration, creates the bean object for the address. When it comes to the second bean configuration, student, and it will create student object. And for the fourth property, you are referring the previous address bean ID. So the the address object will be injected to the employee level or sorry, student level. Okay, so cool. Now you want to get, you can, so now in the memory level, you have address object as well as student one object. If you want to get only address object, yes, you can get it. If you want to get student object, yes, you can get it. Okay, for example, let's get the first address object, address add equal to something, bean factory dot get bean of bean ID. So what is the bean ID I given for the address class, not student? add r I given. In the XML file, what I given? add r I given. Okay, so come back to the main application. So I given, and it is going to return the object. You need to typecast it as a address. So let's print, you have the address values really injected or not. So this we know that anyway it is only primitives and strings. Add dot get, I will print only one or two values. If one or two is coming means everything is coming. Okay, get pin code or whatever it is. So let's print your application now. I mean, let's execute your application. See, you got Hyderabad and 500. So this is all we know, that it is a straightforward. Address is an individual class. You created address configuration inside the XML. You requested the address object. You got the address and you can see the data. So this is what not matter for us. We need to understand inside employee, the Spring really injected the address object what you created or not. That is what we need to understand here. Okay. See, whatever the explanation I am giving here, it will be applicable for the constructor injection also. Guys, please be careful. In the constructor injection, we can close within 1 hour itself. Because maybe only thing is the property tag will be replaced with constructor-arg. Okay, so just I am giving a heads up. Okay, so don't think like constructor injection level we are going to have more discussion. Whatever internally happening with respect to Spring framework, okay, whatever the images I am taking, almost 90% of same thing happen with respect to constructor injection also. What only thing is here all the activities are happening after object creation. But when it comes to this constructor injection, generally you know what is a constructor. When constructor will be executed? When object created. When object created, constructor will be executed, right? So that means constructor injection will happen when object is created. So that means if you see this statement with respect to setter injection, okay, just I'm giving a heads up. Okay, don't think like again you are going to get more with respect to setter also, constructor. Okay. Yeah, here if you see IOC creating object, after that, okay, once object is created, after object creation, spring starting the setter injection. If it is a constructor injection, what is the statement I will give here? IOC creating, while IOC creating object, constructor injection will happen. That means the values will be injected whenever object is created. Whenever object is created, then I will not use afterward. So then I will use once when object, while object creating, the values will be injected. That is constructor injection. But internally the same flow, same thing will happen. Okay, so similar to 80 to 90% same thing. Only thing is the a tag will be introduced. A new tag will be introduced in place of property. That's all. But internal behavior, configuring list values, set values, another object, everything is same. Okay, so most of the things will be covered as part of the setter itself before going to the constructor injection. Okay, so just giving a heads up to you so that you will have more concentration. Come back to our example. Okay, so this is what we know, that it's a straightforward address class. Fine. Okay, now we need to request from our bean factory a employee class, and we need to check inside employee the address object is injected or not. So what is your student class? Bean ID. Yes, go to the students. So this is what your bean ID. This is what our bean ID. Come back here. You will give student 1. So it is going to return student type. Student type something, student S1 or whatever it is, S1 equal to student. So you need to typecast it as a student, because internally it will contain the original object of student. So you need to convert it as a student. So you are holding with this student. Fine. Now let's print the details of student details. This out of S1 dot get my student ID. So this is also straightforward because it's an integer value. You know that we are already done with the example for the integer and string. Student name, mobile number, okay, get mobile number. Now it is all about the matter of fourth property, get address. Tell me what will be printed as part of the get address. So any guess with respect to core Java? Okay, it's assume like who created object and all, but finally employee contains internally address object. So what line will be printed? Any guesses from you? Yeah, we are not written two strings, so probably it will create hash code and address name. The class name @ hash code and all. Yes, good. So good guess. Thanks for everyone. So that's what. Okay, let's do now. So first we will try to see whether really we have, if object is injected, that's why you can see something like a hash code of the memory location or whatever it is, the address hash code is representing here. So let's do one thing here. Sorry, not this. I want to take this here. Shit. AD. I'm printing object here. So let me write down as line separator sys out of with respect to some line configuration. Okay. So now execute one more time, run as Java application. Okay, if you observe here, whenever you requested alone address object, what is the hash code? The same hash code you can see. That is, so that is what I am telling. It is generally referencing or injected. The same address will be injected is nothing but it is referencing with respect to student class, with respect to student object. So you got at the student object. Now see, if you want to see details, can I call directly as a get method here itself instead of writing again, reading that as a separate address reference variable and all? Can I call directly get city, all these things here itself? Okay, let's do one thing. I am deleting the above one to avoid more confusion. So straightforwardly, what I am requesting now? Student object. From the student object, S1 is a student object, you are getting address object. From the address object, you are getting city, state, pin code and everything. Get pin code. I can print 2-3 values. Get country, state. Okay. So even let's print the country also. Get country. So it's all core Java concepts. Whoever is having good knowledge of core Java, they can understand. Setter getter methods, that's all. So what I am doing, bean factory object is created. You are requesting student object. As per our diagram, as per our explanation internally, the Spring IOC container created student object and injected by the address object whatever the values you configured, like Hyderabad, TS, India 572. So see, those details are going to be printed or not. Run as Java application. See, for Dilip Singh, the address is Hyderabad, the address is something like all these things. So is it clear how we are injecting? So only thing is, out of all the discussion, what you need to understand, this is what the key role playing here. The reference attribute. So in a shortcut, it is a ref attribute. Ref is nothing but reference. Reference of another bean ID. Reference of another bean ID. Nothing but another bean object. So what bean is representing here? Sorry, ref attribute is representing. Let's make a note. So ref is, what is a ref here? It's an attribute, not a tag. Okay, understand the difference between attribute and tag. So tag is always having something like your, okay, this braces, less than or greater than or whatever it is, okay, angular braces. But attribute is part of the tag. Okay, it's an attribute, not tag. Okay, don't confuse. In interviews also they will try to confuse you. Okay, which tag you used for injecting another object. So you will say like ref tag. You should not say like ref tag. You should tell them like we use a property, and inside the property we have an attribute called as ref attribute. You should clearly tell them like ref attribute. You should not say like tag. Okay, so the ref is all about attribute. Okay, it's an attribute representing. So what exactly it is representing? Another bean ID. So nothing but the another bean ID is nothing but another bean object. So you are just giving like go and refer the another bean object. So the full word is reference. So it's a reference, man. Simply you are referring one person to maybe you are referring your friends like, okay, go and refer that guy, go and meet that guy, so he will help you. So however you are doing like so similarly you are just informing to the Spring framework, hey Spring, please refer so and so bean ID for this. That is what you are doing. Now can I configure, assume like this is what the college address. Okay, assume like I made it as a college address. Okay, so assume like college address. So this time what I did, I converted it as a college address. So what I had to do immediately, I need to make change here as well, so that for Dilip student, this is the college address. If I have another student, for him also the college is same. So what you have to do, for example, you are going to create, can I create one more bean configuration for the student class? Any answers? Can I create one more bean configuration for the student class? Yes, good. Definitely we can create more than one, any number of things, but only thing is unique IDs you have to do, that's it. Now let's copy paste. See, I'm doing copy paste. Let me delete these comments. I will keep in one place so that you can refer my code. You will have comments, will help you to understand the things. And whenever you are practicing also, please make sure writing meaningful comments, because in real-time projects also, generally we have to write down meaningful comments whenever you are writing the logic. Even though you are writing good logic, you are expert writing in the logics, but you have to write down proper comments also. Okay, it's a practice, good practice in real-time projects also. Okay, so now come back. Assume like it says student 1, and I'm going to write down, I'm configuring details of the student 2. So assume like this time student ID is 101. So, and the person name is something, I'm going to take Naresh. So the person name is Naresh, his contact number is something I given like this, and for him also college address is same or not? Yes. So that means you are telling to the Spring Framework, even for student 2 object, go and refer the college address object. So that means now understand the real advantage of okay, making configuration of the real-time values at one place. Okay, you configured college address as a single time. You configured college address as a single time. That means the same object you can use for all 1,000 students, 15,000 students, or whatever it is, right? Wherever you want college address, simply you will refer this bean ID. That's all. For student 2 also the same college address. Okay, now for example, if you are configuring the another student 3, yes, you can configure student 3 and probably his roll ID, his roll number is 102. Maybe take a name, something like Suresh or whatever it is. So his contact number is, this is what his contact number, and he is also from the same college. So that means with respect to memory, what will happen? Student 1 object created, and it is also representing same address object. So with respect to our image, what will happen? So assume like student 2, student 3, all these things are created, but everything is injected by the same address object. Because you have only one bean configuration for the college address, and that is what representing for all students. That is what representing for all student objects. Okay, that is what representing for all students and all S1, S2 student, whatever it is. So the same address object is representing. Is it clear until this part? Okay, cool. So if you want, you can test it. Okay, the time is almost done. So let's do one thing. With this, we are almost done with the setter injection. Okay, we are almost done with the setter injection. So tomorrow we may discuss another 5 minutes about the setter injection. We are going to move to the constructor injection. Okay, but the same explanation what we are taking from last 3 days, 4 days, it is almost similar to the, even it will come as part of the constructor injection also. Okay, so constructor injection concept will be closed a little bit early because we are already discussing all the lot of flow diagrams internally, what is happening and all. Only thing is, when Spring injecting the values with respect to setter, with respect to constructor, that is what we are going to discuss. But the remaining logic, writing the values, configuring the values, list, set, objects and everything is almost similar to the setter injection only. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let me test all the student details. Okay, where it is? Yeah, main class. Okay, main class is what I created. Student application is the main class. So can I get similar to this? I will get student 2. So here I'm going to get the student 2 and he is the student 2. So you can replace all the things here. I'm just taking only student 2. Okay, we will close this session after this. Okay, see now, you are going to get student 2 details like Naresh, all these things. Okay, observe from here, Naresh, contact number and everything. His roll number 101, Naresh, his contact number, ID, HY, he is also from the same address. For example, assume a small example again, okay, just we will close within 1 minute only. Now, can I configure, maybe assume like the same college is having 2 addresses. One location, I mean they are having branches. Okay, college is same, so maybe this is college address 1, this is college address 2. These guys are having another college in the Bangalore from the state Karnataka, India, and assume like the pin number I don't know. Okay, assume like something 577777777. Okay, so these guys are having college in the Hyderabad as well as in the Bangalore. So that means you created 2 address objects. Now Dilip belongs to the Hyderabad college. Naresh belongs to the Hyderabad college. But so and so third student, Suresh, is from the, whenever you are collecting the Suresh details or you are configuring the Suresh details, he is from the Bangalore. He is from the Bangalore college. So then what you have to do? Simply, you will give that Bangalore bean ID object. Bangalore club, whatever the Bangalore object you created, Bangalore location address object, that bean ID you will give it to the student. For that specific Suresh. But when it comes to Naresh and Dilip, same, they are belongs to the address one only, nothing but they belongs to the Hyderabad college. So if you have another branch, you will create another address object. So who the student belongs to the which location, based on that you are going to refer. Let's test the student 3 now, whether he is able to get the Bangalore details or not. Okay, student 3, you are requesting student 3 object S3, S3. If you know perfect copy paste, you can do a lot of work in real-time projects also, okay? Very quickly also. So good, now let's execute our program. See here, now you got for Suresh 102, Suresh, his mobile number is from the Bangalore location. So the other 2 students are the HYD. So you got the advantage or not with respect to Spring Framework. Okay, you are doing the loosely coupling. Okay, you are doing loosely coupling and you are separating the real-time values at one layer and you are writing logic at different layer. So that it's very easy. You are configuring in 2 places. You can reuse these address objects wherever you want in any number of places. Okay, so that is what the loosely coupled is encouraging by the Spring Framework. That is what the concept of loosely coupled. So you are just loosely coupling the values in one place and you are using wherever you want. Okay, sir. Yeah, stop. Class is done. Okay, exactly 9:30. Don't worry. So admin number, I think Akhil is the admin number. So if anyone else is having it, can you please pass it to me? I think Akhil given in the starting itself. Okay. So the class is over. If anyone is having little bit doubts, let me know. And yeah, even I think you can find out all the admin details, payment details, everything here. So whoever doesn't have admin number, see I'm pinging right now. You can get it from there.